My husband slid the divorce papers across the kitchen table on a Friday evening and said it like he was closing a business deal. "Sign these. You'll get nothing. That's the best offer you're going to get." He had his attorney on speed dial. He had spent 3 weeks preparing. He had a strategy, a timeline, and complete confidence in the outcome. He had never read page 9. My name is Caroline Voss. I am 39 years old. I am a paralegal with 14 years of experience in family law. I have sat beside attorneys in depositions where financial records were presented line by line. I have organized discovery files in cases where hidden assets were found in the last folder anyone thought to look. I have watched judges read documents out loud in courtrooms and watched the faces of the people at the tables when the numbers landed. I know what it looks like when someone has not read a document carefully, and I know what it looks like when someone assumes the person across from them hasn't either. And the morning my husband told me to sign papers that would leave me with nothing. I had already read every page of those documents twice, including the page his own attorney had apparently not read carefully enough. Drop your city in the comments right now. Tell me what time it is where you are. And stay with me until the end, because what the judge said when he read page 9 out loud is something I will never forget. My husband, Marcus Voss, was a software architect. He built systems for a living complex, layered structures that required patience and precision and the ability to see 10 steps ahead. He was exceptional at it. He earned well. He thought carefully before he acted. He had one blind spot. He assumed that because I worked as a paralegal rather than an attorney, I did not fully understand what I was reading. He had said this to me in various forms across 9 years of marriage. "You assist lawyers, Caroline. That's different from being one." It was not said cruelly. It was said the way people state facts they consider obvious. It was also wrong. I want to tell you about how our marriage ended, because it did not end the way Marcus believed it did. It ended the way things always end when one person has done their homework and the other person has assumed they haven't. Marcus and I married young. I was 26, he was 28, and we were both early enough in our careers that the life we were building felt genuinely shared. I supported his work through 2 demanding contract periods when he was building his reputation. He supported mine through a difficult transition between firms. We were, for the first 5 years, a team. Then Marcus's career accelerated significantly. A major software contract brought in income that changed our financial picture considerably. Marcus handled most of the investment decisions because he was interested in it, and I was busy with my own caseload. I reviewed what he showed me. I trusted what I didn't see, because that is what you do when you believe you are in a partnership. I should have read more carefully. I know that now. The first sign that something had shifted came not from a document, but from a conversation. We were at dinner with another couple friends of Marcus from his industry, and the husband asked about our investments. Marcus answered for both of us, which was normal, but the way he answered was not. He spoke about everything in the first person singular. My portfolio, my property holdings, the assets I've built. I did not say anything at the table. I noticed. Over the following months, I noticed more. The way Marcus deflected when I asked about our financial accounts. The way certain statements stopped appearing in the shared folder we had used for years. The way he began referring to specific assets as mine in casual conversation, with the ease of a man who had been practicing the phrasing for a while. I am a paralegal in a family law firm. I have spent 14 years sitting beside attorneys during discovery, during depositions, during financial disclosures in divorce proceedings. I have seen, more times than I can count, what hidden assets look like in a document. I know the specific way a financial picture looks when something is missing from it. Our financial picture had started to look like something was missing. I did not confront Marcus. I did not hire my own attorney yet. I did what I do at work when a financial disclosure doesn't add up. I started building a file. Over 4 months, I gathered what I could through legitimate means. Bank statements I had access to. Tax returns filed jointly, which I had every right to review. Investment account statements that had been shared in previous years, allowing me to trace the trajectory of accounts that had since gone quiet. I organized everything chronologically, and I looked at the shape of it. The shape told a story. Across the previous 3 years, a pattern had emerged. Income that should have appeared on our joint returns had been structured through a consulting entity Marcus had established, a single-member LLC I had known about but had never examined closely. The LLC had received significant income. The distributions from that LLC to our household had been considerably smaller than the income it generated. The difference had gone somewhere. I needed to know where. I brought what I had to the senior partner at my firm, not as a client, but as a colleague asking for guidance. She reviewed my file for 20 minutes. Then she looked at me and said, "You need your own attorney, Caroline." Today I had my own attorney by the end of that week. Her name was Patricia Soames. She had 30 years of family law experience and a specific reputation for financial complexity cases. We spent 6 weeks building the full picture before Marcus did anything that forced our hand. He forced our hand on a Friday evening in October. He came home with a manila envelope, set it on the kitchen table, and slid it toward me with the confidence of a man who had rehearsed this moment. The divorce papers were inside. They were thorough. I will give his attorney credit for that. The asset division was detailed, the property valuations were precise, and the proposed settlement was structured in a way that appeared on a surface reading to be reasonable. Marcus watched me open the envelope. He watched me look at the first page. He said, "Sign these. You'll get nothing better." My attorney has been very thorough. I looked up at him. I said, "Can I have a few days to review these?" He said, "Of course." He said it generously, the way you say something when you believe the outcome is already decided. I took the documents to Patricia that evening. Patricia read them overnight. She called me at 7 the next morning. Her voice was very calm, which in my experience means something significant has been found. She said, "His attorney made an error on page 9. I want to tell you what was on page 9, because it is the kind of thing that seems small until you understand what it means." Page 9 contained the asset schedule, the list of all property and holdings being divided. Marcus's attorney had listed the consulting LLC as a business asset with an assigned value based on the previous year's declared income. That value was the basis for Marcus's proposed settlement figure. What the asset schedule did not account for was the LLC's retained earnings, the income it had generated over 3 years that had not been distributed and had instead accumulated within the entity. Under our state's laws, retained earnings in a business entity established during a marriage are marital property subject to division, regardless of how the entity is structured. The retained earnings, when Patricia's forensic accountant calculated them, came to $847,000. $847,000, sitting in a business entity, not listed on the asset schedule, not included in the proposed settlement, either overlooked by Marcus's attorney or, as Patricia described it with careful neutrality, not brought to his attorney's attention by the client. The number sat between us on the phone line for a moment. Then Patricia said, "We'll be requesting full financial disclosure and a forensic accounting of the LLC before any settlement discussions proceed." Marcus's attorney received our response the following Monday. I was told through Patricia that Marcus's reaction when he understood what had been found was not the composed strategic response of a software architect who had anticipated every variable. It was not composed at all. The legal process that followed took 8 months. Marcus's initial position that the LLC earnings were business assets separate from marital property did not survive contact with our state's case law on the subject. His attorney, to his credit, recognized this relatively early and shifted to negotiating the valuation rather than contesting the classification. The hearing where the judge addressed the retained earnings was a Tuesday morning in June. The courtroom was quiet. The judge reviewed the financial disclosure, reviewed Patricia's forensic accounting, and looked at Marcus's attorney over his reading glasses. He said, "Counsel, your client's asset schedule on page 9 does not reflect the retained earnings of the LLC as documented in the forensic accounting provided by petitioner's expert. Can you explain the discrepancy?" Marcus's attorney said his client had believed the earnings were categorized correctly. The judge said they were not. Then he read the relevant figure into the record. Marcus did not look at me when the judge said the number. He looked at the table in front of him, at the documents his attorney had prepared, at the page 9 that his own attorney had not examined carefully enough. I looked at him. I thought about the Friday evening he had slid those papers across the kitchen table with complete confidence. I thought about the 9 years of you assist lawyers, Caroline. That's different from being one. I thought about what 14 years of reading documents carefully actually looks like when it matters. The settlement took 3 more months to finalize after the hearing. The final figure reflected the full marital estate, including the LLC's retained earnings, valued and divided according to the forensic accounting. I will not share the specific settlement amount, but I will tell you that it was considerably different from what Marcus had proposed on that Friday evening in October. His attorney, in our final meeting, said something I have thought about since. He said it quietly, to no one in particular, while gathering his papers. He said, "I should have read the whole file." Patricia called me 2 weeks after the settlement closed. She said she had referred 3 new clients that month and wanted to know if I had considered going to law school. I told her I had been considering it for years. She said, "You already think like an attorney, Caroline. You just need the credential." I am enrolled in evening classes starting in the fall. Last month, a new client came in for an initial consultation. 41 years old, married 12 years, husband was proposing a settlement. She slid the documents across the conference table and asked if I could take a look before her attorney reviewed them. I read every page, all 11 of them. On page 7, I found something his attorney had missed. Now I want to hear from you. If someone handed you a document and told you to sign it because you would not get anything better, what would you do? Would you sign, or would you read every page? Tell me in the comments, and tell me the city you are watching from. I want to see how far Caroline's story has traveled. Subscribe before you go. More stories are coming that you will not want to miss.